Greetings. This is Bruce Armstrong and Betty Brick. We are both volunteers with the Longmont SCTC Senior Computer Tech Center, which is affiliated with the Longmont Senior Center in Longmont, Colorado. And this is the second in a series that I'm going to do on Google Apps, the basic apps, docs, sheets, and slides, and to provide you a little bit of insight in how to use them and when you'd use them and all of that kind of thing. And I'm going to share the screen very quickly. But I wish I was on that beach behind Betty. Actually, it's snowing here, so I think it is a good thing. So I'm going to share the screen here really quickly to show this is the outline of the various things that we're going to cover over the series of this Google Apps on our YouTube channel. But I'm going to go through Roman numeral 2 up here, Google Basics, which would be how do you get a Google account, a necessary evil in this whole thing. Google Drive, what is that? What do you use it for and all that stuff? And why do we need it? And then Google Apps. So that's just the basic outline of what I'm going to cover today. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is go into a browser. And in this case, I'm going to use Microsoft Edge. It doesn't matter what kind of browser. I'm going to share the screen. And here I am in the browser. And I have it coming up. My homepage on this particular browser is google.com. And that's the website where you need to be, no matter what browser, whether you're using Chrome or whether you're using Firefox or whatever. You just go to google.com and it should look exactly like this. One little caveat here is that some people, if they're using a mobile device, will have a Google app that is part of that's on their screen on their mobile device. That's not the same thing as this. This is the google.com website. So just remember that. You got to go to the website. You could type it in at the top and go to it. And right now, up here on the top right, if you see my cursor, there's the Gmail images, and there's a little 3x3 dot thing that we'll get to in a second. But the first thing I want to show you is you got to be signed in. You can see mine already has first name B for Bruce on there. And if I click on that, that shows that I'm signed in on my Gmail account. If you don't have a Gmail account, you're going to have to get one. I think that's a necessary evil. I'm not going to actually add one, but I'll show you how it can be done. It would say add another account. And down here at the bottom of that first window that comes up is create account. And it will ask you a little bit of information, like here's for myself. You have to put your first and last name, and you actually have to create a Gmail address. Now, you don't have to use that Gmail address for anything. You have to have it. But down here at the bottom, for example, if you wanted to say Bruce Armstrong at yahoo.com, you can sign in instead with a different email address. But you have to create that account before you can get anything to happen. So I'm going to go back to the main screen. Once we've created the account, then we're good. And I'm signed into my Gmail account. Now, the trick is, what do I do with that once I get it? That's where this little 3x3 dot thing up here, some people have names for it, but I don't know what you'd want to call it, but it's just a dot thing. And if you slide your cursor over it, it says Google Apps. And that's where the the little treasure chest opens up and you get all the stuff that Google offers. And what I want to bring up first is that once you have an account, you also have a place on Google Drive. And this is where things get a little touchy for some people, especially seniors that we work with, that they have something called Google Drive. Now, Betty looks like she might have a question about that.
Yeah, Bruce, I'm not sure that I feel comfortable with the cloud-based universe, so to speak. Is it possible for me to have, say, for example, this drive? I understand the benefit of having a drive like this where I could store stuff, but can I have that drive on my computer so it's not out there for the rest of the world to see?
That's a difficult question. Google has set this up to sort of lock you into using their drive.
Yeah, that's my worry.
That's one of the things that people have a little bit of an issue with, is that they are storing their information on some unknown place. And you use the term in the cloud. That was something that was invented a few years ago, and it was like, it scared everybody off. You know, it's, well, why is my data out there in some data center in, you know, Timbuktu, Illinois or somewhere, you know? Well, that's what they've done. But I've gotten comfortable with it over the years, and Google offers you 15 gigabytes of storage on that cloud-based drive, free of charge. Put anything you want there. You can use it or not. You don't really have to. And I'll just point out that we'll get into this in a little bit as we get into some of the more detailed videos of how you actually use the Google Drive for these apps that they have, the docs and sheets and slides, that they insist on you storing it on their drive. But as soon as you're done, you can download it to your computer and delete it off the drive. If you are afraid of somebody getting a hold of your information, your pictures, your slides, your spreadsheets, if you're doing your taxes or whatever on there, it's something that you don't want other people to see, and you think you're a little concerned about having it out there on some mysterious cloud place. Well, I feel like it's a pretty safe place. I think you would too if you got using it. It's very handy to have. For one reason is that using something like Google Drive, you can actually share the information that you have with other people easier than trying to stick it into an email and sending it to them. It's really easier to just share stuff. And especially, you know, I do a lot of video work, and a video you can't put on an email, it's too big. So you have to use one of these sharing services like a cloud. And so I have this picture here of what it looks like. And I just want to give you a brief thing. It looks very similar to what you would see on, say, a Microsoft Windows File Explorer, where over here it has your drive, your computers, your recent things, anything you've done as favorites, trash, and storage. See, I've used 3 gigabytes of my 15. It always tells you how much you're using. And it's pretty handy. And so you can, and then over here it has the different folders and files and all of that kind of stuff. So it's something that it's a necessary evil, as I said. You've got, if you're going to use Google services, you have to use this. So any more questions, Betty?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Well,
right.
let me go back to the sign-in place. This is the main Google page. And if I want to use the apps, any of them, let me just walk you through some of these things. You can get into your account here, same way you got to do it up here in this corner. Google search, everybody's familiar with that. That's the same as this thing that comes up in my home page. Google Maps is a really cool thing. YouTube is owned by Google, so it's in there. Google Play stores where you can get more apps. You can get Gmail. Again, they put that same thing up here for ease of use up at the top. Google Drive, which I just did. You could have a contact list, calendar, but let me just scroll down a little bit. There's all kinds of stuff, Google Chrome. But here are in this particular series that we're going to be doing, we're going to get into some more details about Google Docs, which is essentially the same as Microsoft Word, but there are differences, and in the next videos you'll see that. Then we have Google Sheets, and that is their spreadsheet like Excel, Microsoft Excel. It's basically the same as that. And then a little bit over here is Google Slides, which is going to look just like Microsoft PowerPoint. So those are the three guys that we're going to deal with the most. But if you get into these apps, there's some really cool stuff in here. Google Earth is a really fascinating thing. Since we can't go on trips right now with COVID and all of that kind of stuff, you can pick a place in Greece or Italy or whatever, and you can do it on a virtual tour through Google Earth. It's pretty cool. I know that we've looked at towns in England, and you can actually go down and do a drive-through. It's kind of a cool thing. But anyway, that's the apps function. So have I left anything out, Betty? Can you think of anything that you want to, spur your mind?
No, I'm looking forward to when we get to talk about the various apps, the docs, the sheets, and the slides, because I think those are going to be really useful for everybody.
Well, it does provide an alternative. In our senior community, it gets a little confused by Microsoft's charging for how they charge for services like what used to be Microsoft Office. Now it's called Microsoft 365, and you pay an annual fee and that kind of stuff. And there's some people that are on fixed incomes and they don't want to keep paying Microsoft, and so they don't. So anyway, it's free. It's totally free and no strings attached. So that's why it's a valuable thing if you want to make the little change.
All right, okay. We'll see you in the next video.
Okay, thanks a lot.